going away. Going away. Going, 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 going. The lion sleep tonight. The lion sleep tonight. All right, all right, all right, all right. What's going on? Give me a second, get everything loaded. Oh, what is up? Bum 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 bum, bum bum bum. Yo, Mike Daddy, what up? Let me look at your watch list real quick. What's up, baby? How you doing? All right, all right. We be wrestling with our demons today. Wrestling with our demons. All right, Mr. Stuck, what's up, brother? ¿Cómo está? My friends, my people, the tribe. Gotta go the way. Hold on, here. All right. Let's get this money. Let's get this money. All right, everybody's in. All right, let's get this money. Cool. All right, all right. In the meantime, let me look at a couple of you guys' watch lists here. Hey, Michael, it's kind of natural to, I was thinking the same thing. It's hard to tell if we're at a long or short. We're right on like a weird sweet spot, but I think this might be the trap, like where you kind of bust lower and then rip it back. So I would actually not get too heavy on the short side, even though everything kind of feels like it's bleeding off, because you're getting like decent sized retracements on these where they might get bought up. I'm not sure exactly yet, but everything does kind of look like a mini bear flag. And this IWM, if it pulls back just a couple more bucks, I think we'll get a good bounce spot on that too. So it's a little bit of a tweener. Like if you look at all these, you see them kind of rolling over, but they're rolling over slow, right? Ooh, look, I just did a Trump, right? They're rolling over slow. So they're rolling over slow. So it could be just a trap. It's not I don't think it's linear right there. This SFM looks nice though. This, like I would be up in this. This is like this has got a good look. Now the question on something like this becomes, all right, is this a day trader or more of a swing setup, right? So yesterday it actually moved pretty good, but in general, it's got a 2% ATR, right? So you got a 2% ATR on this thing. So it's not like it's not always a good day trader, Now, the ATR could be compressed just because it's been stuck in range for a little bit. And so, there is a certain aspect of that too. But, the main concern is that it just lacks a little bit of liquidity. So you have to be careful. But I think this is a really good long setup. I mean, personally, like if you're going to trade to the long side, you definitely want to kind of keep something like that going. Oh, Chris. So look, this team is right into resistance today. And with the market rolling over and the gap being filled, this is probably probably going to pull back today, most likely. ASTS looks like a flag. CVNA, you can do daily trader on that. Now, this MU's in no man's land. So, like, see how it's like breaking down all these levels here? So you're not at breakout and you're not at support. So what ends up happening is like anytime you're buying a stock or selling a stock, right? you got to be either at breakout or at support or at some kind of inflection point where the pattern merges, and so in general, like if you're just in a tweener, right, you're not at breakout and there's not like a visible support, I think it ends up being like a little bit tricky. Yes, this is a flag. You can use that one. Snow. I would go with the bear flag on that one too, I think. Good. This one's still got a breakout look on it. I think you got a good spot. Now, look, this AVGO is messy, right? Like it's all over the place too. It's not really it's kind of like you're not at breakout and you're kind of back in the middle. So just something to be mindful of. Cool. Let's get started. We got things to do. All right. All right. Let's go do the Lord's work. Hey, man, as they say, we're doing Lord's work in the devil's playground. That is the stock market itself. Hey, we've got a small pull in the market. I wouldn't read too much into it just yet. Let's see if it's got like an additional. Let's see if it's got anything additional here that is going to take us down. But like we're testing this big level. So if you go back and you do, let's look at like just different time frames here. So if we go back here and we look at an hourly chart, right? If we look at an hourly chart here, we start to see ourselves at like a decent size inflection point, right? Where we're like, all right, there could be a little something happening. Now the question becomes, right, is this something like more of a trap, or is this a head and, theoretically in the old days they would call this a head and shoulders. But since like the advent of, you know, since the advent of like the algos and, that have taken over, oftentimes like the real obvious kind of patterns, they end up being the trap pattern where they kind of, anybody seen that lately where they like dust down and then you're like, oh, here comes the head and shoulders pattern. They dust down for like a candle and you're like, yeah, here we go. And then it just rips back and you're like, fuck, that was the long, right? And so now you're chasing the short and then you're having to flip to the long side. But anytime you flip, you're usually late. So now you're on, I'm late on the short, I'm late on the long, and you get into this weird spot. So just be careful. It feels like we're kind of breaking under the support here, but I've seen this happen a few times, like where you have so many levels under that, you may just rip down here for like a hot second, even a couple hours, and then they kind of rip it back. So what you really need to see like if this level is actually going to be something, like it's going to be something that like matters. What you really need to see is like if it rips down and then marinates and maybe even has like a couple like lower highs here and starts to build under, right? Like you got to build, right? You build that wall under and then you'll know, right? And so like don't worry, that first thrust may not mean anything because that's usually where the fugazi lies. We got to be a little bit better on that. Now on the price action side of things, obviously the last few days have been kind of nasty. We had gap up, roll down, gap up, big push, roll down, right? And yesterday we just opened up strong for 30 seconds and then we just rolled down, right? So in general, we've had 4 nasty days of price action where strength has been getting faded off. And so these are things to keep inside your head too. When you're looking at the general market, you're looking at a handful of things, right? You're looking at number one, okay, what's my overall primary trend, right? So the primary trend, like your longer term trend, is obviously higher, right? And then you're sitting there thinking like, okay, what are my short term and intermediate term trends? Well, your short term trend is flat, right? So that's your 9 EMA and just the eyeball of, right, the last 9 days. So that's flat. Your 20 SMA is also flat. And your 50 SMA is also flat. So we have a weird kind of thing here where it's like we have flat trends on the primary and intermediate, and then on a long-term basis, we have, right, a higher. The sweet spot of markets is really like when you have more, right, where you have like you're just trending up your MAs and you've got like this kind of nice linear thing where everything is pointing up. right? 90 EMA, 20 SMA, 50, 200, like everything is sloping higher. And now you have something, right, with the wind at your back. That's where you're going to really take in a lot of risk. You can do overnighters, you can do all sorts of stuff, and it tends to work out. Now we're in a little bit of a tweener. So we do have to be careful today. When I see this, what I want to be doing is, at least in this specific sector, which is your top 100 tech stocks, you want to be doing quick hitters, right? So, like if you're trading Tesla, Nvidia, Meta, whatever it might be, you're going to be doing more quick hitters, meaning you're going to get plays, and the plays may have range, but you're essentially, the big hairy Indian butt is that you're going to be trading, right? They're going to be like quick hits, like see, like when Tesla dumped yesterday, it only dumped for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 candles. So you had 25 minutes to basically make your nut, and that was it, right? And so you have to be super mindful of those things, right? If you look at NVIDIA, like it pushes down here, and right, you had 1, 2, 3, 4, 4 candles sideways, 5, 6, and 4 candles sideways, right? So, you had less than 10 candles to really get it, and then you were done. And so that's the little bit of the environment that we're in when the QQQ is more stagnated like this. Now, look, what can happen is, if you just use a little imagination, it just takes 1 or 2 updates like this to really kind of like, right, change the trajectory of a couple of these things. So my thinking for today is, we stay out of the large caps unless we just get really, really easy setups and you can just be scalping away, and I'd probably even stay away from the options today on the large caps, because if they start to go sideways, or if they start to fake out or do any of that stuff, you're going to lose premium, and you're just going to lose a lot of money doing nothing, right? And so, you want to stay away from those. I think probably where little bit better action will be is in this IWM, even though it's gapping down here. We've got a load of support that's coming in where, one more flushy McGee on this bad boy, and we're going to have ourselves a little hoot and nanny, right? And so I'm thinking anywhere, if you look here, right, anywhere from here to here, I think is going to be a potential long, right? And in this, you could actually use the calls and all of this kind of stuff to get it going. So this is probably, the main watch, if we can get it down. Now, let's take a look at just see if we got any good earnings plays or, anything along that end. And let's go rip some tits here, and butts, of course. Let's go rip some tits and butts and get it going. Before we even do that, let's make sure we are just taking a look and making sure there's no decent news out there that we got to be prepared for. Hold on. Bum, 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 bum. Okay. All right. So Tuesday economic calendar, you got Red Book sales, nothing. Case-Shiller, nothing. Consumer confidence. That does actually move the market for about 2 candles, and then it usually kind of goes back to doing nothing. So I wouldn't worry too much about that. Treasury buyback announcement, money supply. These bill auctions sometimes do something. Not always. It's been they move the market when they fail. They don't have enough bidders on it, but otherwise they don't do much. So you got nothing here. You see commodities, oil, turd, gas, turd, soybeans, turd, platinum, turd. So you got nothing really in the commodities section. Europe was also very stagnant. And then look, we've got like just a shit open for the most part too. Shareholder meetings. Hey, this apps, I would actually keep this on the watch list today. And the reason is that this stock has been actually pretty hot of the last, I don't know, 2-3 weeks, right? It went from $1.50 to what, $4, and then it's like actually flagging out here. I'd keep an eye on this one. That usually when you have shareholder meetings on some of these other kind of names, that have just recently moved around a decent amount, you could get a little hootenanny on those. You got over here, SOPA, small caps, dud. Insider purchases don't mean shit anymore. Let's see, we got a good upgrade. CLF and PDD neutral. I guess PDD decimated the Chinese stocks yesterday. We'll put that on the watch list for today too. Bump. All right. The gist of it was there's nothing. All right. So now let's see here. Boom. Apple announced the CFO to depart as CFO January 1st. I don't think that means a thing. Walpole will launch an AI subscription service. Don't know what that means. Shareholder Ardle International to sell 6 million shares. So you may get some pressure on Kava for a hot second. I wouldn't be surprised, though, that if that gets bought up. So Kava, it's got probably about a 90 million share float to 100 million share, give or take. I'm just taking a guess, but usually just judging by the way it moves. Selling like 6 million shares, 6-7% of the float or whatever. That may actually get bought up. So watch this thing. If it comes in today and tests the 9 EMA and starts to hold, that could be actually a decent bounce. JD announced his $5 billion buyback plan for the next 36 months. 36 months, that's what, 3 years? Probably a nothing burger, too. That's actually probably 10% of their market cap, and it still might get faded off. Watch this one. If this JD gets popped today, say it's up like 6, 7, 8%, I'd actually watch and try to roll it over. And the reason is those are, specifically in China stocks, it's all a lie anyways. They're not going to be probably buying back any shares. Also, all these stocks are in the dud. So if you look at the old Chinese indexes, right, like you don't have, you ain't got nothing there. So you've got yourself all sorts of just, probably games here. And that's available as Zepbound single dose fuzz. Anybody know what Zepbound is? And then you got TCOM here. TCOM. That's a great name. That actually might be something too. Trip.com. This is, I think, a Chinese name also, though. Bum. I'd add that. It's a Chinese name. It might actually roll. Who knows? Thank you, Sean. Sean T. Dude, sick workout videos, bro. Sean T. Are they still around? Man, those were the days when you just had the workout videos like in your living room. You just had to jump up and down and like fucking do fake kicks and everybody was ripped. Dude, now you gotta do all this other fun and games. All right, cool. So I think that's it on the news side. There's nothing, it doesn't look like there's anything that important. So let's dig in and see on the Gapper side what the heck is going on. And let's narrow some things down here. Ooh, ADXN. Hey, for you degenerates out there, right? For all the degenerates out there, you guys can unite as one today because you got this ADXN. This is a good God-fearing Christian setup for those that like to dance on the wild side, those that live and act on an alternative lifestyle. You guys know who you are, you risque people, right? You risque people. You can roll with this. You got a huge base on this, and you got probably room as you start to fill up this gap. Not for me. I'm too old, too bald, too fat. Well, I wouldn't, not the fat part, but I use that as a mechanism to just make myself seem more relatable, right? Because you wouldn't want to be too perfect. That'd just be crazy. You don't want to come across too perfect. Now, TCOM, oldtrip.com here. I think this is a Chinese name. Oh, look at this. The renminbis. Dude, that's amazing, right? Like, I wish imagine just dealing in renminbis all day. Hey, this is a China stock. It may not hold. Just look and look. If you look at the C-Web. That's your China internet thingamajiggy. You got yourself a nasty, right, little bear flag here. Right, nasty little bear flag here. This is the China Bull internet. And Trip is, one of their or TCOM, I should say, one of their main components here. It may not hold. Let's watch this one. We actually might be able to fade this. It's not something I usually do, but when you get like a shitty sector like this, and then you get the market also dumping off, this is like probably a prime time candidate to actually come back and fill its gap. Boom. Let's add that. Haynes earnings, post revenue versus blah, 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 blah. That's extra Trump too, right? XPEV CEO shares rise after CEO buys shares. How many shares? Chairman. Dude, what a great name, right? Xiaoping He required 1 million shares, and so you got 2 million shares. It's $7, $8 stock, 16 mil. Damn, it could work, but once again, the China stocks are rolling over, so it probably will be short lived. I'll add it and take a look at it. You can see the C-Web is down, but the China Bull ETF is hanging out. So you do have some cross currents here to be mindful of. If you look at FXI too, so it's like some of them are getting shit on, probably because of PDD, and then the other ones are boop, 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 hanging out okay. So let's add let's add TCOM. Let's add this XPEV. JD, I don't think you can trust because it goes too much with PDD, and then you get this LI. To me, this looks more like a swing trade. It's a really hot setup. For example, if you did not know this was a Chinese stock, you'd be like, "Damn, that's the hottest setup around," right? If you didn't know this was Lee Automotive, you'd be like, "Damn, this is the bee's knees right here," and it's got a good look to it. It really does. You've got this huge gap to fill here. And so you got a decent amount of upside. You got really just a little bit of risk, maybe $1 max of risk. If you were going, say you were swinging this, right? You'd be maybe at yesterday's lows, if that, right? Probably even at today's lows. Once it fulfills the gap a little bit, you could probably do it. So not bad. I would actually keep a couple of these on the watch list in case they roll over. Not that confident because Chinese stocks move in their own way. What can you do? TZA, this is the ETF for IWM, junk. So nothing on the gapper side. So why is there nothing really on the gapper side? Does anybody know? The reason is just that, look, we have no earnings really left. So earnings season comes 4 times a year. It starts with Alcoa. It was a while ago. We're like pretty much done with earnings now. So we're kind of like just getting the remnants of what's going on. MSOS, this is your pot stock ETF. Pot stocks, as you guys know, the pot stocks are untradeable. They're already all like in the pennies, right? So, like this MSOS goes, this is the ETF for pot stocks, but like all the pot stocks are already like $1, right? TRY is like $1, and CGC is $5, right? And ACB, like they're all just back in no man's land, and they've all done reverse splits. So like you've done 2 splits on this thing. So in reality, this ACB is like actually like 6 pennies, give or take, if you account for all the splits. So there's really not much to go on these. Go to Tachido, swings to Q2 loss, revenues increase, blah blah blah. Dun, 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 dun. Yo, so this has got like a nasty little bear flag on it here too. If you like to trade like a little bit of a smaller name, You could roll with that. You could roll with that. You know, I don't know how much wood's going to be on this. Guys, Cares Capital just announced a short on Lumens. This I could be in. So this thing's a big, nasty turd anyways. Big gelatinous piece of excrement. Let's see. These guys, they've had some good hits, but sometimes they actually reverse. But it should be moving around today. We're gonna get some action on this one. You can see just this like kind of 2 candle dump, but I think we should get some action on this one. Let's add that. I'm into it. Yeah, let's roll with that because let's see if it sets up. We don't necessarily know, right? But it's got a lot of room to fall. This thing was just $1. This thing was just $1. Went to $8. You know, it hasn't rolled over the way I thought. We were shorting this on this particular day here. I never got the meat on it that I thought I would get. And now you can start to see it's like a little bit rolling over here. Let's roll with this thing and just let's roll with this thing. See if it gets any volume on it. It's only 600,000 shares right now. Let's see if there's any action. It really need to break under this 20 to get into this pocket. But this could be the day to do this with everything else looking a little bit weak. Yeah, look at this. What's up with Hims? I actually thought Hims was looking like a long. Hold on here. Hims. Anybody see the news on this bad boy? I don't see. Oh, yeah. 5% minus LLY headlines on Zepbound. So that must be one of their little drugs. Yeah, you got room down to the 200-day moving average. If you need a short, guys, you know, you got yourself a bear flag on this thing. And not the cleanest of them, you know, because you got the 200-day moving average about $1 away. But you could definitely roll with this. You know, I would add that in. I'm going to narrow down this list in a second, right? We got to kind of MSTX. Yeah, that's Monster. All right, guys, enough of all these gappers and news. Let's get into the main Mama Jammas and see if there's really anything even worth, anything worth putting a little heat on. All right. So out of the large cap names, for Netflix is holding up the best. Okay. Netflix holding up. You got 590, it went to 700. So you already had this big push on it. Now you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 days of kind of consolidation. Now you got yourself a little bit of something here. So this is the breakout, right? This was the breakout, the highs right here. And so we kind of tested into it for a second, right? But it was too extended to go in. You had too many up days in a row when it hit the breakout. So now you're just marinating for 4 days, congealing, right? Congealing here with the 9 EMA under it. So you got easily manageable risk here. And you've got relative strength in case the market starts to bounce. So I'm interested in this. Any kind of pulls back into, some type of zone of love around here, I'd be definitely into this. Let's see if it pulls today. It probably should. If the market starts to rip, though, then this is probably going to lead the way. So what is going to happen if the market rips at some point, say it reverses today, right? We got a little bit of weakness in the Qs, but nothing crazy. So if the market starts to reverse, this bad boy, let's get rid of all these lines here. This bad boy's got yourself a nice little, right? The snake, right? So you got the snake is, that's the pattern, right? That you're always kind of looking for. You want to roll, you want to roll and pet that snake. If you can get it, Woo, that's a good one. So add that. Old Costco. This is boring. No getting around that. But you do got yourself a good kind of location on this. It may need a day or two to tighten up here. You're kind of, it's not extended going into it, like your 9 EMA is $10 away. But you do have to be a little bit careful when you've already run up this much. Frankly, an inside day on this would be, I mean, that would do it some wonders. It really would. If you got an inside day on this thing, I think you could bust loose here. And it may even do it today because it was cooking and booking even yesterday. The good folks at Costco, they changed the game. Now we got Papa John's Pizza got a range break right here. I think this 480, 48.25 is a key zone. If it can, damn, Hindenburg just took a shitter on SMCI. Whoa. Yo, add this. The Hindenburg now, they do some good work. They do some good work. First of all, they got an epic name, right? Like Hindenburg. Dude. Let's add this one because you've got this 500 breakdown here. You never know. Like this thing could get salty. It could get jiggy. There's just a lot that could go into this. We don't. I don't know if it holds. A lot of these big cap names, they just turn the algos back on them, and they rip back, and then they fade off. It's never an easy trade anymore. It used to be like when Citron was swinging their nuts around. The hit pieces were incredible. So they Citron and they had a couple other ones. And these guys, I mean, they knew how to do hit pieces proper. Now there's like a whole subset of guys that do hit pieces, and they're not nearly as probably now it's just kind of played out a little bit. But dude, let's see if this happens. You don't want to chase this down $50, but look, I would move into shorter time frames and start watching this thing. Like, look, if it starts to pop into 530, 540, and then start to watch it for the roll. And we may have something there to go. And look, if it starts to push in here and then it starts to roll, then, we'll watch this 490, 500. The issue just becomes that the hit pieces are not really as hot as they used to be, right? And so we do got to kind of keep that into the back of our heads and just say, like, hey, this is good stuff. We want to if we see the setup, we'll do it, but we want to make sure that we're not getting too crazy on it. Going back into this, this XBI, keep this on your watch list for maybe even your longer term accounts here. This is a multi-year base here that's been happening since 2022. If you break this 103, like I would set a bunch of alerts here, like one here on this flag, and then another one on here. If this happens, like you probably want to swing this, XBI. You could, even take the calls and go like a month or two out. They should be pretty cheap because this doesn't, it's been just kind of coiling up here for a little bit, so it won't have like a crazy premium to it, dude. I think you can get a good swing out of this one, And look, IBB itself, the other biotech index, already kind of busted its range, right? And it had a nice kind of push, and now it's also marinating. So, both of these, together, they both look really fantastic. More of a swing setup. I think it's going to be a good go. Now, mRNA, woo. You got an 80 spot here, guys. Set an alert on this bad boy. If you break this 81, I mean, this thing's a turd, right? Like we all know this. This thing's a turd. So you got the nasty news here. I think this was earnings, and then it just kept drifting here for a few days. Now you got yourself a nice, easy consolidation. You got your 9 EMA right on top of this thing. That's a good look to it. Dude, let's add that thing for a potential short. I got this VSCO. So you got this big push, but an 8-day consolidation. Keep an alert around 25 as it starts to tighten up there. I think that's going to be a good spot for it. Hey, these uranium, nuclear kind of names, they're doing something. I wouldn't be surprised to see this thing pick up some steam. It's also, do you see the snake? Right? So you got the push, the snake. Now you're into something right there. Let's see. This thing could rip into the 14s really quickly. It does lack a little bit of liquidity, so keep an eye on that. Docs, I got a $37 alert. And out of the other big caps too, I do like this Adobe. You've got this like kind of big. This is the earnings push right here, and now you got this big kind of multi-month breakout, and you're kind of just marinating here at over this 550, congealing, right? You're marinating here. It's really just a nice spot. And if you start to take out this kind of range at 570, you're going to be in for a hot spot. What you would need, and I think it's a multi-day trade, right? So it's not a day trade. Like you would be able to hold this for a little bit. So what you want to be doing, oh, come on, SMCI, wait for us. So if you start to see this thing kind of just congeal its way higher, and then 9 EMA is catching up on it, I think you can get yourself a good breakout. You can get yourself a good breakout on this. Let's add this to the list. And if it does that, you're coming right back into this like 600s for maybe a much deeper push. Like, look, it topped out in 2021. Adobe's like, out of all the AI plays, Adobe probably has the only kind of, AI that people are going to be using, which is, hey, I upload pictures and videos to the website and then they fix them up for me, right? AI is like kind of basic things like that actually, you can use on a day-to-day basis. So like we use Adobe for all sorts of shit, right? Like you use Adobe for the video editing, use Adobe to make my skin glisten on my YouTube thumbnails. No, I'm just kidding. But you use Adobe for these kind of things. And yeah, they got all sorts of little features now where you just click some buttons and it's like, voila, here you are. Got a big ass base on this thing. Like the bigger the base, the bigger the base, the sweeter the juice. It's like going to Jamaica, my friends. Right? Now we got a good spot here. Hey, DocuSign, this can even go back even a little bit farther here, but you got yourself a base from December that's starting to congeal. It needs maybe a day or two, to kind of tighten up here, but you're getting there. Like if it takes out the 60, you're rolling into the 70s pretty hardcore. This one's the third, and then now you got the second down day. I'm just waiting for one little tap into this, and then we take out this 18 and we're going to be shredded. That's probably my favorite look. And then ASTS, this gets bought up. I want to see how they had a nice push into the end of the day. Let's see if it retests back into 31 and starts to congeal. I'm not that keen on it with the market rolling over, but I think this is probably something worth doing. That's nice. Not bad. And then you got Dropbox. Look, I want to be a part of the IWM is actually going to hold. If it's really going to do something, right? Like if it's going to break out and actually hold, what we want to do is look for these kind of bottoming names, right? Like you and some of these. This Dropbox also. Hey, Jen Bunny, how you doing? Right? This Dropbox here, you tested this level of resistance numerous times now. Like we got a good spot on this, I think. Let's roll with this. If it breaks through, I think this is more of a swing trade. If it gets there, you've got all this upside onto it. But let's roll with that one too. And now let's get back into this. We got those. We got a couple of these Chinese stocks. I want you to just be mindful of a couple of things. Number one, there is really no A+ setup on the books today. So like anytime I walk into the trading day, if I have some A+ setup, I'm like, wow, I got this big fire setup, right? Ooh, fire is a bad word, right? But I got this hot setup and 2 hot setups, 3 hot setups that are like A's, B's, right? I would say a majority of these are what? They're C's, B plus, B minuses, right? There's not like a surefire, like, I gotta get this set up right now. Some of that has to do with the market, right? In this kind of like a little bit of a bleed off phase. And so that's very natural. We need the bleed off phase because we were really, really extended. But we do got to just kind of be mindful of these things here. We may, we got to come back into some levels before we do anything. All right, good. Guys, go have some fun today. Let's go do what we do. I'll be in the Discord room the rest of the day. And let's go out and do, right? Let's go out and do the Lord's work here. You guys are always welcome to join. Let's go work. Hey, guys, I'm setting out that Zoom link right now. We got to move.